How can clutter affect your health, lifestyle, and wellness, including sleep and nutrition? What do you do with stuff from your family you don't want? How can learning to say no and releasing guilt support you in clearing clutter? Let's continue our month focusing on clearing clutter with Julie Coraccio podcast interviews.
Are you overwhelmed by clutter, looking to organize your life? Do you feel stuck and are ready for a change? Every Tuesday at 1 p.m., join award-winning professional organizer and coach Julie Coraccio on clearing the clutter inside and out as she supports you in navigating the waters of decluttering your life and getting organized. Julie thinks outside the box and examines clutter in all areas: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic, and more. Ready to live a more joyful and fulfilling life?
This month focuses on interviews I've done on other podcasts. Sometimes it takes hearing something in a different way or by asking a different question for that aha moment. Have an aha moment from one of the interviews? I'd love to hear it. The plant trainers are a husband-wife couple from Canada, and we had a lot of fun. If you're looking to improve your health, check out their podcast.
Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 115, How to Declutter Your Life with Julie Coraccio.
In today's episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talked to Julie Coraccio on how to declutter your life. Julie's an award-winning professional organizer, author, and lifestyle coach. She lives in Raleigh, North Carolina with her husband Tony and cats Joey and Antonio. She's passionate about supporting people in creating the life they choose, deserve, and desire through clearing clutter in all areas: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic, and more. She hosts the popular podcast Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out and is the author of How to Declutter Your Life online course.
Today we pinpoint the key places you can find clutter in your own life. We discuss how clutter can be physical as well as mental, and how clutter has a ripple effect on various levels. It really is quite interesting to hear how lifestyle, health, and wellness can be affected by clutter. After listening to this show, don't be surprised if you feel the need to go declutter.
Turn it off. We got to go declutter now.
Let's do it.
Once again, we'd like to welcome all our new listeners. We get very excited when we have new listeners, and we hope that you go back and catch up on all the episodes that you've missed and send us an email and let us know which one you actually liked the best. And for those of you who have kind of been sitting on the sidelines listening to the Plant Trainers Podcast and you haven't joined our Facebook groups yet, either Moms Creating Healthy Families or Plant-Based Health, Nutrition, and Fitness, and you feel like you're ready to make some kind of leap in your life, but you don't want to get into the Facebook groups, send us an email at info@planttrainers.com, and we'd be happy to communicate by email with you, or maybe even hop on the phone and see where you're at and hopefully get you to a point where you're comfortable making some amazing changes in your life, because like we say at the beginning of every show, we are here to help you improve your life through nutrition and fitness, and that is something that we really look forward to helping you do.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
I'm just very grateful when I see people who I've worked with become successful and they eventually leave me to go off on their own, because I do concentrate a lot on giving skills for people to take with them for the rest of their lives, and just to see what they're able to accomplish once they've gone through that stepping block with me. And I'm seeing amazing posts, amazing videos happening from these great people online, and I'm just very grateful to be part of their story.
I'm really grateful for the fact that classes are done and I'm able to spend more time with my family and not be in the confines of a classroom right now. Enjoy the summer and really just be grateful for the time that I have with the people that I love the most.
We're here with Julie Coraccio. Julie, thank you so much for being on the Plant Trainers Podcast today.
Thanks. I'm honored to be here.
Before we begin the interview, we wanted to know if you have a moment of gratitude that you'd like to share with us.
Absolutely, and I love this because currently on my Facebook page, which is public, I'm doing a daily gratitude every day for this year. When we are in gratitude, it's hard to accumulate emotional and mental clutter because you cannot hold two opposing thoughts at once. More gratitude means less anxiety, stress, negativity, etc. When we are grateful for how much we have, it lessens our need to accumulate stuff that often creates physical clutter. By having gratitude, we raise our energy, vibration, and awareness and can attract the circumstances in life we desire. I personally strive to make gratitude a daily practice. Have gratitude for whatever you can right now in this moment. If life is challenging right now and you are struggling to have gratitude, know that that's okay. Have gratitude that you have enough to eat, or clean water to drink, or access to health care. When you begin having gratitude regularly, you can build from there and find gratitude in so much more.
It's such a great, powerful message. And so that's really why we do this every show. We let our listeners know that it's, we're sharing our gratitude, our guests are sharing theirs, and they should be taking a moment to do the same for themselves. So thank you for sharing that with all of our listeners.
Thank you.
So tell us how you got into the business of clutter or decluttering.
Well, the truth of the matter was I was really unhappy at work. I had a job that I used to nickname Crazy Town. I was a director of development, so I raised funds for a nonprofit. And I'm thankful for it every day because if it hadn't been so crazy, I don't know if I would have been able to overcome my fear to start my own business. So during this kind of nutty time in my life, I thought, okay, well, what could I do that I am good at doing, but that I would also enjoy? Because I thought if I'm going to step out there into the great unknown, I've got to really love what I'm doing. And so I thought back on my life, and every time people were like, you're kind of type A, come help me get organized, come help me let go of stuff. And I had done it and just didn't realize that it was a business that you could actually get paid to do. And when I first started my business, it was healing through organization. And I was very specific when naming it because I saw when you get organized, you can heal your relationships, you can heal your life. But the more I did the work, I discovered that the focus was on removing clutter. And once you decluttered, you could get organized. And when I work with clients, I really want them to clear clutter. I'll do whatever the client wants, but I really emphasize clearing clutter. And so it was really a great marriage between what I love to do and what I had a good skill set for.
When you would walk into people's houses, like friends' houses, would you get itchy and go crazy when you'd see what was lying around their house?
No, not really. A little bit now. I try to really kind of separate that, but I do like things organized, but not perfect. To me, the example I use is Martha Stewart's awesome, but she doesn't get any sleep and she has a whole staff of people. So I tell people that for the most part isn't realistic unless you're going to devote your life to doing it. So my kind of philosophy is, are you comfortable in your house? One of the best compliments we get is when people come to our home, it's like, wow, it feels really great to be here. We can relax, we can find peace. And so that's what I encourage people to strive for.
So when you say clutter, are we talking about just stuff all over the place, like physical clothing or toys or just things all over? Is that what we mean by clutter?
Clutter means a couple different things to me, and I take a very different look to clutter. First of all, clutter is stagnant energy. It's also delayed decisions. I'm looking at my work table here in my office, and my husband and I share an office, and we've got some clutter that we'll address tomorrow. We usually declutter our office at the end of the week, but it's a delayed decision. Oh, do I want to file it? Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm not going to make a decision right now. And to me, clutter is what prevents you from moving forward in your life. Not only is there physical clutter, there's also mental, emotional, spiritual, and energetic. You can have clutter in your relationships. You can have clutter in your health life. To me, clutter is it's like a boulder. It prevents you from moving forward.
So where do I want to go? I guess let's kind of deal with the physical clutter first. And there are things that we need now that we use every day. There's things that we use on a yearly basis. There's things that we might need in the future. So how do you distinguish between what's clutter and what's actually needed?
If you use it, then it's not clutter. But, you had just mentioned you might need it, and that's a place that people get hung up on a lot. And what I tell them, trust you'll get what you need when you need it. Because if you're worried about the future, that's coming from a fear. Well, I might need this. That's not living in the present moment, and the present moment is your point of power to change. So in that instance, to me, that's clutter, because that's a maybe. You're not using it, but you're just holding on to it because you might need it. If you use it, you love it, you need it, then it's not clutter.
Do you prefer to do it yourself, motivated to release clutter and finally get organized, but need some guidance? Do you have an idea of how to organize and declutter, but know a game plan would support you in achieving your goals? Our do-it-yourself organizing your space and decluttering plan, Julie creates a customized step-by-step roadmap for you to organize your home and release clutter in all areas of your life. Find out more at reawakenyourbrilliance.com.
But I've got clothes in my closet, and my job doesn't have me dressing up all the time. So I do have some fancier clothes that I might need at some point, but I probably have more than I actually need. But I can't just get rid of that stuff because I know I'm going to need it at some point. So am I just stuck on that? Is that not being in the now?
I don't think you're stuck on it, and I get that because I'm the same way. I mean, what I wear to work, I'm not wearing dresses to work. I'm wearing yoga pants and T-shirts. But, you have that occasion. Maybe you need to go to a funeral or wedding, so you have a suit. To me, that's not clutter. But if you have 5 suits and you're rarely wearing a suit, then I would challenge you on that. How much of that do you really need?
Right.
And then what about people who collect costumes because they enjoy either dressing up at Halloween, or if you work with children, you're constantly dressing up for different occasions and stuff like that. So if you had, a big closet in the basement and it was all filled with Halloween stuff that you might only use 3 times a year, would you leave that or would you kind of reduce it?
What I would say, again, it's hard not seeing it. And when I work with someone, I do a really detailed assessment and ask a bunch of questions. But that, to me, you love it. If costumes are your thing, awesome. Go for it. Enjoy your costumes. What I would encourage you to do is, every year we go through every single item that we own. We're in the middle of that right now. We're about 60% done. But because we do it on a regular basis, then things don't accumulate. So if you're talking about this downstairs closet you have and it's stuffed to the brim and overflowing, I'm going to say, hey, take some time, go through it, see what you can release. But it's, again, does it make you happy? If costumes make you happy, do it. But if costumes make you happy and electronics make you happy and clothes and makeup, then what happens with that, when everything has value, nothing does. So keep what you use and brings you joy and has value to you, but you've got to put limits on that. Does that kind of...
That makes sense a lot. It does. And this is the other thing that I find a lot of people are struggling with lately in terms of clutter. They've inherited pieces from family members who have passed on, or, when your grandmother moves out of her own home into assisted living or something like that, and your family piles things on you. And this is something that I see with everybody, and they're stuck with all these things that they feel guilt around. So maybe it's not necessarily, these heirlooms necessarily, but things that have been given to you and you have guilt around getting rid of, and you think it might be of value one day and you're just holding on to it for the value. So where do you go with that?
I have a couple thoughts on that. And I think this is an outstanding question because, no, you're not alone. Many, many people struggle with this. So what I tell clients right off the bat when we're discussing this is that your loved ones have passed on. They're at peace on the other side, and they wouldn't want you to hold on to something that you're not using or isn't bringing you joy. What I would challenge you and anyone listening is, how many of you out there have boxes in the attic or the garage that are from the family, something for 20 years collecting dust you haven't opened? And I see that on a regular basis. And if it's, the first thing, again, they want you to be happy. If you don't want it, I would always suggest this. Reach out to other family members. Hey, do you want this? Because if not, I'm letting it go. If something's of value, why not sell it to someone who would love it and would bring you joy? If it's, you shouldn't feel this albatross around your neck. The person has passed. Now, I understand it. It can be an emotional thing. I always joke that my grandmother can reach down from heaven and smack me if I'm not acting appropriately. But the other thing where a lot of people get tied up is memories. Oh, I have this memory with my grandmother or my grandfather or my uncles. Memories are in our heart and our head, and we make the mistake of placing them on objects. I was working with a family recently and a little 10-year-old girl, and she's like, oh, I want to keep my brother's cape. And I said, well, hold up. It's your brother's decision. Let's talk about this. And so she told me the memory and why she wanted to keep it. So I said, give me the cape. Put the cape behind my back, and I said, tell me the memory again. And she was able to do that. And so I said, she understood. She made that connection. Okay, it's in my head and it's in my heart. The other thing I suggest to people, if you're really struggling, take pictures of something. That way you still have the memory there. And, there's a statistic that I think right now it's about the average American, it probably, applies to Canadians as well, has about $15,000 worth of credit card debt, as well as having about $7,000 worth of stuff in their home that they're currently not using and collecting dust. So you could almost in half cut credit card debt. So if you're not using it and you don't love it, let it go. And as far as the guilt's concerned, they're dead. They've moved on. They're happy and at peace. And I really, truly believe they'd want you to feel the same way.
I think that's some really good advice and something that people need to ponder about and wonder, do they need to make an album with some pictures of it and find a way for them to be at peace? Because having all these things or feeling worried about getting rid of them causes so much other mental stress. And I kind of wanted to use that as a segue to talk about how physical clutter can affect your health and can affect mental and create mental clutter as well.
Oh, it absolutely can. To me, mental clutter is anxiety, worrying, being overwhelmed, not living in the present moment. So physical clutter really creates mental clutter. I mean, first of all, they've done studies. You have a general dampening of your brain function. But, I'm talking about the pile of papers that we have to go through tomorrow on my desk. Now, because I do this on a regular basis, it really isn't that big of a deal because I have a set time where I do that. But it's that lurking pile, gosh, I've got to go through the closet. And so whether or not you're aware of that, that's like a drip, drip, drip at the back of your mind. And say you're not getting sleep at night and your bedroom is chaotic and has a lot of clutter. Then there's anxiety. Oh my gosh, I've got to take care of this, or guilt. Oh my gosh, I'm an awful person. I haven't done that. So that's how one way that physical clutter can create mental clutter. And I'm so happy that you brought up how it affects your health, sleep, and nutrition. One of the things I'm very passionate about is getting people to realize clutter's not just physical. Most people think physical, some more think mental, but they don't think of it in broader terms. So clutter's been implicated in depression, anxiety, and more. And I found whatever's going on the inside is reflected in the outside. So depression's a great example because depression can cause clutter and clutter can cause depression, and that can be a cycle that might be a challenge to break. Clutter affects your weight and health. People don't eat well. If your kitchen's full of clutter and isn't functional, you're probably going to rely on takeout. You're probably going to eat a lot of frozen foods. It's also a contributing factor in noncompliance with taking meds, keeping appointments, and exercising. So if you're like, I need to lose weight, I want to, I've got high blood pressure, need to tackle that. If you've got clutter, that's an obstacle in your way. And UCLA did a study, and I believe it was last year, and they observed families, and they found that mothers' stress hormones spiked during the time of dealing with all their stuff and clutter, because it overloads your senses, it stresses you out, and it impairs your ability to think creatively. And, sleep is, I have been doing some research on sleep lately because I've had some insomnia. But if you have stuff piled on your bed, how can you expect to have a restful night of sleep? And again, clutter's a stimulus. So if you walk into your bedroom and you're like, all I want to do is sleep, and your mind's like, whoa, total overload. I can't sleep. I've got all this going on. And if you have mental clutter and you're worried and you're stressed out, that's going to affect your sleep as well. And again, with nutrition, if you want to eat better, you need to get into your kitchen and cook. I mean, you all are the experts on that, but you're most likely not going to do that if you don't have a clutter-free kitchen. And I'm also, one thing that I struggle with is emotional eating, and that can, if you're angry, you're sad, and you're not dealing with that emotional clutter makes you take poor choices as well.
It makes you have poor choices from the second you enter the grocery store because you're craving those things on the shelves that you're saying in your head, I know I shouldn't have this, but I'm just going to take it. and I'm just going to keep it for a rainy day. And then before you know it, on the way home, you're struck in with the guilt from buying it, and it's already open in the car. And it's a vicious cycle, and it's something that we go through very often with our clients, and we find what the triggers are, and we find out the little behaviors that people could start changing one at a time so that they can start making better choices. In fact, I had a client who had a lot of clutter, a lot of food clutter in her life. And first we added in certain foods, and then we started to take out certain foods, and she found that she had reduced the amount of cravings that she had for these other foods, and she started to crave the good foods. And the other thing is that she found that she realized in that matter that she was an emotional eater, and then she had to find another outlet for her emotions. So how do we dump our mental clutter so that we don't get wrapped up into these other binds?
First of all, that there are several ways that you can do that, and again, it really depends on the individual. I encourage my clients to have some type of mindfulness practice. I'm a huge fan of meditation. I believe that meditation's great, but it doesn't have to be sitting in the lotus position with the fingers all whatever. I tried that and that didn't work for me. Meditation can be listening to classical music for some people. I love to mow the lawn. That's a very meditative time for me. I feel like I can just do a brain dump, my mind's clear, and it's just thinking outside the box. I love that you start every podcast off with gratitude. Like I mentioned earlier, you can't have that mental clutter. You can't have that anxiety if you're in gratitude. I think something else that's really important is learning to say no. Because I know for me, my emotional eating, if I haven't expressed my anger, that's one of the, and was a huge thing to work on breaking, because if I got angry, I think one is society conditions us as women, you can't say no, you're to take care of everyone, and women don't express their anger. I'm a little older than you all, so it might also be a generational thing. But that was a big thing for me to do, setting boundaries, learning to say no. And as I made those changes, then it helped me with the mental and emotional clutter.
I think learning to say no is a skill that a lot of people need to develop, and it's really easy to say yes to everything. It's not so easy to say no to something. And learning how to do that really is a game changer for a lot of people in their lives. And when you talk about meditation, like you were before, right away I thought about how I do my meditation, which is actively. I'm either doing it while I'm running or while I'm cycling or while I'm swimming. I think exercise is a really great time to be able to clear your mind and not think about all the little things that you have to get done, but actually focus on your breathing and just get some time away from everything else for a few minutes.
We talked about meditation with Patrick the other day on the podcast, and we can link to that in the show notes. And I talked about mandatory meditation, and that's finding an activity that forces you to turn off your brain from thinking about everything else going on in your life and just allow your brain to concentrate on the activity that you're taking part in. So we were talking about trail running specifically that day, and you need to make sure that you're not, you're climbing up the rocks, you're not tripping on stumps, you're not tripping on the roots, and that's all you're thinking about. You don't have time to think about what you're worried about, what's coming up next week, what your daughter said to you that day. You don't have to worry about any of that. And I also find that swimming does that for me, because I find it very difficult to remember which length I'm on. So I have to count very meticulously, and I also count all my strokes throughout the length. And because I'm counting over and over again, I can't think about two things at once. I can't count and think about things. So getting that time to actually clear your brain, it's like resetting it, and then you could start fresh again after.
Absolutely. And in those examples you're talking about, you're completely in the present moment. And that is your point of power to change. I encourage people who are listening, spend 10 minutes a day, or put one of the rubber band on your wrist and snap it, or set a timer every 30 minutes and check in and see where you are. Are you angry that you didn't say something to a colleague from 5 days ago? Are you worried about not having enough money from retirement? So, okay, well, in the present moment, what action plan can I take? I can ask my friends, who do you invest with? Or let me research and see if it's a good deal to buy gold. You're taking action, and that helps relieve your stress and your worry. But when you're thinking about the past or you're thinking about the future, you can't do anything about it. So being completely present is that's where the magic happens.
So would you say that it would keep you from being able to move forward in your life if you're dealing with all this mental clutter?
Oh, I think so. I do. I think, how can you create the life that you desire if you have a bunch of mental clutter? And mental clutter to me is also the ego, but I want to distinguish something here. The ego is not bad. The ego in me allows me to be organized. It allows me to write my book. It is the one that makes sure I show up to my client's house on time. But unfortunately, the ego, or what I prefer to call like kind of the mind mental body, is also the one that says, oh, you can't do that. You're not worthy. You're never going to be successful. And so it's about being present and working on that and calming that inner me small self that a friend of mine calls it, because that's the clutter that can mental clutter that can prevent you from creating what you choose.
So what would you do if somebody has all this clutter, like emotional clutter, mental clutter, physical clutter in the house? Would you start with the physical and then work towards the mental? So, take a month and schedule cleaning out your house, or hire you, or, do something to first get your physical setting in order, and then start working and allow the emotion and the mental to kind of clear itself up?
Well, here's what I've noticed when working with people. When you start on the inside, the outside's affected, and vice versa. So again, everything's very individualized. But for an example, I'm working with a client now. And so when I work with a client, I do a couple different things. So I have a really detailed assessment. So usually what we're going to start is with the physical, but I can guarantee you because I work in chunks of time, that through the assessment and through our time working together, something is going to come up with me, and we're going to create some type of homework for you that, in addition to the physical, you're going to be working in one of those other areas. I had a client who had a very cluttered craft room, and she was in the habit of going to the craft room to relax and to find peace of mind, but it was chaos all around. So one of her homework assignments was, we have to break that chain that says equates clutter and chaos with peace. So you need to find somewhere else in the house to go and sit, and I want you to do deep breathing for 10 minutes. And we'll work on doing that. So in addition to doing the physical, then there's always going to be another component that we're working on as well. And again, I can tell you this from experience, but when you start that, and even if you're pulling teeth, you're like, oh, this is really hard, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And as you do the physical, it helps release the mental and everything else that's going on. But the physical, and especially for people, I found that usually, not in all cases, but usually the physical clutter is the easiest to start. Because if you're talking about emotional eating and not being able to say no, and you're really angry underneath, that's sometimes a lot harder for people.
We have 2 Facebook groups, Moms Creating Healthy Families and Plant-Based Health, Nutrition, and Fitness. And I know that a lot of people would say, my kitchen looks nice or my bedroom looks nice, but then when you open the closet, you see it at all the sitcoms, the kid opens the closet and everything comes flying out. So that's still clutter, even if you don't see it every day. So if you just put up a curtain to hide, all your stacks of boxes and things like that, because it looks neat on where you are you still affected by that mess behind the curtain or behind the cupboard?
Absolutely you are, because that's like the drip, drip, drip that I mentioned earlier. It's there, and you might not be dealing with it consciously, but unconsciously it's there 24/7.
It's the skeletons.
I'm here, these are delayed decisions. Oh, absolutely affects you. And if you talk to people who do feng shui, I've had people who do feng shui refer me, because you have to clear the clutter. I'm not even going to try to help you do feng shui in your house because there's too much clutter. Every book I've ever read, the first step they say is clear the clutter. You want to change your life, clear the clutter. So it definitely affects you. And everything's energy. And so I mentioned earlier, clutter is stagnant energy. So behind that curtain or in that closet is a bunch of stuck energy, and that's sitting there in your home or wherever it is.
Do you find that there's negative energy attached to items? So if it's an item from someone who did your family wrong and somehow it ended up in your house, that even if you like it, you should get rid of it because there's a negative energy associated with it?
I would say I love this question, and I would have said, I want to answer this in 2 different ways. Yes, I do believe, especially if you associate something negative with something, release it and let it go. Now, if it's something you really love, then you have to come to terms with it. And everything, you make it negative or positive. If it's a laptop computer from someone who stole $1 million from you, laptop's not negative or positive. The laptop just is. You make it negative or positive. So if it's something you really want, sage it. You need to come to terms. Okay, this jerk stole $1 million from me. I'm not happy, but hey, I'm going to have gratitude because I have this awesome laptop. But you have to make that switch. If you still view it as negative, then I would say release it. Because again, they just came out with a study, and I believe it was in England, and I'm trying to get a copy of it, but 97%, we use 3% of our brain power. 97% is the big iceberg that we never see. But what they discovered scientifically is all our decisions come from there. So even if you're like, you know what, I'm going to eat healthy, but you've got whatever going on in that 97%, you're more likely to make the unhealthy choice. So if you believe it's negative at some level, then that's going to be there. So until you can become neutral about it, then I'd say release it.
I hear you on that for sure.
Do you prefer to do it yourself, motivated to release clutter and finally get organized, but need some guidance? Do you have an idea of how to organize and declutter, but know a game plan would support you in achieving your goals? Our do-it-yourself organizing your space and decluttering plan, Julie creates a customized step-by-step roadmap for you to organize your home and release clutter in all areas of your life. Find out more at reawakenyourbrilliance.com.
So if someone was to just listen to us right now and they'd say, you know what, this makes a lot of sense. I need to start clearing out my brain, my house, my mental, my physical. Where would you get them to start? Would they just go to their bedroom, open their closet, and start getting rid of clothes? Is that like the first thing that they should be doing?
You're already doing that in your head. I could see it happening.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. What I would say is what needs attention. If you aren't paying your bills on time and are paying late fees because your files are cluttered or you don't have a system to pay your bills, that's where you need to start. If you want to be healthier and your kitchen's cluttered, that's where you need to start. So if there's something that needs immediate attention, I would say that. Or if you're like, nah, nothing really needs immediate attention, but where do you feel drained, or your bedroom if you're not able to sleep at night, or what's bothering you the most, and check in with yourself and ask those types of questions, and that should direct you where to start.
So here's the $1 million question, quite literally at this point. With all these Facebook groups, buy and sell Facebook groups in the area, we have, instant garage sales at our fingertips at all times. So when people used to get rid of things very easily and just kind of, give them away to charity, now people are trying to sell things all the time. But there's a lot of energy associated with selling things, and you need to meet people, and it could be a dangerous situation. So do you suggest selling things or just giving them away, and the power of return will happen in your favor eventually?
Excellent question. And I believe that's up to the individual, because what I would say to people, what's more important for you? If you need money, there's no shame in that. That's just a fact. And, I definitely, you need to be safe. If we sell things on Craigslist, I only have someone come over when my husband's home. That's just something that we do in our household. If you're like, you know what, I have all this stuff in my house and I need peace of mind, then you donate it. I encourage you to a charity that comes and picks up, because sometimes people put stuff to be donated and end up picking through it and bringing things in. So here in America, there's my husband he was an airborne and served in the Army. So there's schedule a pickup. I schedule it, and supports veterans. So to me, it's a win-win-win. I'm going to let that go. And it's been my experience in garage sales because I've helped clients set that up, but 95% of the time you don't get the return. And people can sometimes get stuck. Oh my gosh, I paid $150 for this. What do you mean we're going to offer me $5? And that creates frustration and sometimes anger. So I would first look at what's more important: money, peace of mind, whatever that is, and that should guide your decision. And if you do a garage sale, and even if you post it online, people are always looking for a bargain, to know that you aren't likely to get what you think things are worth. Now, my husband's much better about this than I am. He's like, yeah, that's fine. take it. But I'd be like, oh no, wait, we spent. So I'm a little more uptight about that.
I hear you for sure. There's one more thing that I wanted to touch on, actually. There are many clients where I ask them what a clear space in your house if that's the kind of exercise you're going to be doing. You need to have your equipment available if that's what you want to be doing. And if your schedule is cluttered, then that's a problem as well. You need to clear space for your exercise to be able to fit that in as well. And clutter can really affect you from a physical point of view as well.
Oh, it absolutely can. I mean, there's no doubt. You know, I've worked with people, and you're talking about individual exercise, but if you're also have a lot of physical clutter and you have kids, you might not be able to find the uniform or equipment before the game because there's so much going on. And if you have a family and you have a bunch of different sports teams that you play, you know, that's something that you want to have organized and clutter-free so you can find what you need when you need it.
Absolutely. So is there anything new and exciting coming up for you in the future?
In early 2017, I'm going to have 3 books coming out, all focused on supporting people from clearing clutter in their lives. And again, it's going to focus on all the areas, but I'm in the process of writing now, and I'm very excited about it.
If somebody wants to reach you, where can they find you?
If they go to reawakenyourbrilliance.com, they can find all information about me.
Great. And we are going to link to that in the show notes as well as your podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, they can, my podcast is Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out. So this gives you a little slice of it tonight. I focus on different areas of clutter in your life because what I want to create in this world and what I see my gift as is supporting people in releasing clutter. Because if we release clutter and we're sharing our gifts and our talents with the world, what an amazing place we would live in. We'd live in a very much different world. Takeaways from today's podcast. Clutter is stuck, stagnant energy, delayed decisions, and anything that prevents you from moving forward. Trust you will get what you need when you need it. If you aren't using it, it's not bringing you joy, or you don't love it, it's clutter. If you're holding on to stuff from family that is past, trust that they are at peace and would want you to release what you don't need or makes you happy. Memories are in our hearts and heads. We make the mistake of placing them on objects. If you release the object, you will still have the memory. If you are struggling to let something go, take pictures of what you choose to release. Go out, clear the clutter to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire.
Julie, I think those are great tips. Really important for people to start to take into account the clutter that they have, both physically and mentally, because it does truly affect their overall health, the quality of sleep that they have, and of course their nutrition, which is something that we talk a lot about. And I think making sure that you can actually get into your kitchen and do what you want to do in there efficiently and effectively, it really changes your entire life. So Julie, thanks so much for sharing with us. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Plant Trainers Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Podbean, Podcast.fm, or on one of your other favorite podcasting networks. We really appreciate all the feedback we've been receiving from you, and it really helps us out every time we get a 5-star rating and comment on iTunes from one of our fans. So, thanks for continuing to support us in that way. It ensures other people will find us. Connect with us on Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. Our handle is @PlantTrainers. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our website at www.planttrainers.com for awesome plant-based recipes, blogs, and a list of our services. Don't forget to email us your questions or voice clips so you too can be featured in our future Hey Plant Trainers mini podcast. We hope we've inspired you today, and join us again next time, and have a great day.
Ready to clear clutter and share your gifts with the world? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, so what step will you take today? Sign up for our newsletter and receive a free copy of our 10 Steps to Clearing Clutter. Julie Coraccio provides coaching, professional organizing and speaking, organizing classes, positive affirmations, and her unique How to Declutter Your Life course. Learn more at reawakenyourbrilliance.com. Subscribe to Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out and join us next Tuesday at 1 p.m.